Welcome to Beyond the Coverage. I'm Chris Horner. This is the big build-up to Milano-Sanremo starting tomorrow. Fabulous one-day race. It's the first of the big 5 monuments. Now, at 300 kilometers, this is a legendary race because the distance is massive. When you arrive here at the start line, I was here in 1999. It was the only edition that I did of Milano-Sanremo, and it had a star-studded field. Marco Pantani was there. Frank Vandenbroek was there. Johan Masseu, Andrew Taffy was here. Paolo Bettini, Michele Bartoli, the legendary rider Bartoli, was on the start list here in 1999 when I was taking part. Fabulous field of racers. It was Pantani blowing up the race on the Cipressa, followed by Paolo Bettini, Michele Bartoli putting in a stellar ride, and then Andre Schmil, who soloed into the finish just under the 1K to win that year's edition of Milano-Sanremo. There was a star-studded field, and it was a magical moment in 1999 just doing the whole 300 kilometers of this race. Now, for me, well, I made it all the way to just about the Cipressa, and then my legs were done because the UAE team up there that's now called Quick-Step, those guys were just blowing the race up in 1999 with the speeds up front, and it took every bit of effort I had just to get through the coast ride when you're talking about those couple gnarly big climbs that they had before the Cipressa really starts. I had Max Schiandri, the Italian rider that I was looking after that year at Milano-Sanremo, and when I finally was able to get up to him along the coast, I get up there and I'm fighting the whole time to get to see if he needs anything. I finally get up there, I'm in a great spot, we're both at the front, and all of a sudden he looks over to me and he says, "Chris, I need some food, I need some water." So I was up there about 5 seconds at the front of that race during the coast here at Milano-Sanremo, and it was back to the car, getting drinks, fighting to get through the bunch. Now, it's curb to curb the whole time here along the coast of Milano-Sanremo in 1999, and I'm sure it will be tomorrow because the stress amongst the riders is massive. The road's wide, it narrows up in a lot of spots, and then it has a lot of road furniture as you come out of sections. Always parked cars are in the way, and when you're talking about the riders being curb to curb, it is a fight all the way for any bit of real estate you can possibly get. That year would take me 5-10 kilometers to get to the front, and because the peloton's so wide, it's only 5-10 deep. So you're talking about 10 kilometers of fighting to get up to the front just to turn around, go back and get some bottles and come back up to give them to my teammate, Max Schiandri. Now, Max Schiandri went on to put a top performance in there that year at Milano-Sanremo. I think he was top 20, but he was in the picture sprint finish there with Andre Schmil looking fantastic for FDJ. Now, when I talk about tomorrow's race here, I woke up this morning before Beyond the Coverage, did a little research on Caleb Ewan, and then found out the kid is not starting tomorrow. He's out sick, so my big favorite for the win tomorrow at Milan-Sanremo is out. But in replacement of Caleb Ewan is Mathieu van der Poel for us fans, not for Lotto Soudal. Mathieu van der Poel is coming in, starting his season here at 2022 at Milano-Sanremo. Look for something spectacular. I don't think a rider of his quality is going to start his season at a one-day monument without anything less than great form. I know he's only been training, but you can get a lot of work done in training and still be spectacular at a one-day event like Milano-Sanremo because if you have the fitness, you don't have to be incredibly sharp at the finish of the race because everybody's legs have taken that sharpness out over the course of the 270 kilometers just before you get to the Cipressa when the racing really starts proper. So I still expect Mathieu van der Poel to be something special at tomorrow's race. I got 5 teams as my favorites here, and I'm going to start number 5 as Trek Segafredo. They had some changes too. Last year's winner, Jasper Stuyvens, he's not going to start, and Mads Pedersen will take his place. Because of this reason, and it sounds a bit crazy, but because Jasper Stuyvens leaving and Mads Pedersen's coming in to take his place is why I've added them to the top 5. Now, I didn't need Jasper Stuyvens to leave, but I needed Mads Pedersen to come in because he's looked fabulous throughout 2022 season. One of the few riders that has been able to go head-to-head with Wout van Aert and beat him. He won at Paris-Nice, beating Wout van Aert head-to-head, And then when we go further back to Bessèges, he won a solid stage 1 there on an uphill steep finish and soloed there, dropping the peloton to win on his own. With those 2 victories, I'm moving Trek Segafredo up to top 5 list. Now, 4th place, I'm going to add Total Energies, and you guys are thinking I'm crazy here, but here's my belief behind it. Peter Sagan, he looked solid at the race Milano-Sanremo that was there on Wednesday. He finished 5th on that day, and he's had a lot of rest when you're talking about Tirreno Adriatico. He did just 2 stages and then was sick. But sometimes when you're sick, it's not always turns into a death sentence, because sometimes you're sick, you get that extra rest, the body flushes out a lot of stuff in it, and you come out of being sick maybe 2 to 5 pounds less. It sounds crazy, but I've had it many times where I had a stomach bug and you flush everything out, and all of a sudden that weight does not come back on. You might have fought to get that weight off, and then all of a sudden you get sick and it just comes off easy. You're back on the bike again, and you're feeling fantastic after being sick, better than you did before. When we look at his results there at Milan-Torino, getting 5th with his team leading him out with just 1K to go, I think he's on the right trajectory to put him in as one of the favorites here at Milano-Sanremo. Remember, last year he finished 4th. Now when you look at Total Energies, he has a lot of help there with Oss and Bodnard, but they have Anthony Turgis, and Turgis went top 10 last year in 2021 here at Milano-Sanremo. So he's got help. He's got a 100% dedicated team, Total Energies, to helping him. It's not like previous years when you're talking about Bora Hansgrohe. If you look last year with Bora Hansgrohe and Peter Sagan, when they came off the Poggio and they're coming in to the famous last 2.5 kilometer stretch into the finish line, when Stuyvens had attacked, it's Max Schachmann back there that's trying to jump across and leave Peter Sagan on his own to deal with the group behind. Max Schachmann at that point in time should have known that Peter Sagan was there, just pulled that group back, and then with the next attack, which certainly would have been from Julian Alaphilippe in 2021, Peter Sagan could have possibly gone with that move, and Wout van Aert, Caleb Ewan neutral themselves out, would have given Peter Sagan a shot at winning Milano-Sanremo last year. But instead, Bora Hansgrohe, and they're a classic for this tactic of always looking after Peter Sagan throughout the beginning, the middle, and then the very crucial section of the race when Peter Sagan needs the most help is when Bora Hansgrohe always left him isolated, and if anything were even detrimental to helping him try to win big stages in the Tour de France and, of course, Milan-Sanremo last season. So, Total Energies, number 4 on my list. My number 3 team, Alpecin Phoenix. Of course, we all understand why. It's Mathieu van der Poel. Now, if he's not fantastic here at Milano-Sanremo tomorrow, you could always look for Jasper Philipsen because he's already won throughout the 2022 season. He's in great form. The Cipressa and the Poggio, they're not incredibly difficult climbs to get over, so he does have good form. I don't believe he can make it over in the front group, but he might make it over in the second that reattaches to the front at the bottom of the Poggio. So look forward to Alpecin Phoenix doing something marvelous in tomorrow's race, and look forward to Mathieu van der Poel possibly winning Milano-Sanremo. Now, my number 2 team, you guys all know 1 and 2. You got to know it's JumboVisma and UAE Team Emirates. But which one am I putting second and which one am I putting first? I'm going to put UAE Team Emirates second because Tadej Pogačar, he's on incredible form. He's been winning everything. But when I look at his team, it's not a stacked roster. I love Alessandro Covi there. He was fabulously strong when we're talking about the race down in Spain, Ruta del Sol, where he was taking some stage wins on some difficult uphill, fast, hard summit finishes that were about 2 and 3K long. And when you look at the Poggio and the Cipressa, that is a fabulous lieutenant to have help launch Tadej Pogačar up those climbs. But I think they need more. Davide Formolo is there. He could do some softening up of the peloton early on those climbs, but I don't think he's going to have a hard enough hit to really start affecting the one-day big classic specialists that are here at Milan-Sanremo. So I put UAE Team Emirates second. Now, first on my list, JumboVisma. They are stacked. They have Primoz Roglic, the number 2 best rider in the world, and Wout van Aert, my number 1 best one-day bike racer in the world, is here, and we know he's on fantastic form. His stage 8 at Paris-Nice to defend the yellow jersey of Primoz Roglic. His ride up Col d'Ez was legendary, if not anything less than that, because he was amazing that day. I believe his form will be spectacular. He is the hands down number 1 favorite here at Milano-Sanremo now that Caleb Ewan's out. With Caleb Ewan leaving, that changes JumboVisma's tactics dramatically when we're talking about arriving on the Cipressa and the Poggio with no Caleb Ewan. JumboVisma do not have to set the hard pace up those climbs anymore because they don't need to get rid of Caleb Ewan. They do have to follow Tadej Pogacar's attack if it comes on the Cipressa and certainly if it comes on the Poggio, but you have Primoz Roglic here to control the young Slovenian Tadej Pogacar. Those two could possibly get away. Primoz Roglic could sit on him. Primoz Roglic could possibly work a little bit, depending on what it looks like in the group behind. But one thing's for certain, Primoz Roglic, you don't want to come to the line with Tadej Pogacar. He's on fabulous form. He is amazing flying legs that he's got going here at 2022. So if Tadej Pogacar is away with Primoz Roglic, I would expect Roglic to work through a little bit, but you don't want to come to the line with Tadej Pogacar. You want to bring Wout van Aert up to that group so that you have a solid, biggest odds of winning Milan-Sanremo on tomorrow's big one-day race. The other tactics back there to remember, Peter Sagan, if he's there, I think he needs to slip away on the promenade to the finish, those last 2.5 kilometers. He's going to have to follow some big attacks there, and I'm sure those attacks will come from Team Ineos. And you guys are looking at me. You didn't even put, Chris, you didn't even put Team Ineos in your top 5. That's right, I didn't put them in the top 5. That team is stacked. I love that team. I'd love to sign all those guys and have them riding for me. But there's one reason I have not put them on the top 5. All the top 5 teams, I think, can win tomorrow's Milano-Sanremo. But when I look at Ineos, they have never been able to win against the 2 Slovenians in the last 2 seasons. So I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow at Milan-Sanremo. They come with a stacked team. I mean, it's depth. You're talking about Tom Pidcock, Michael Kwiatkowski, who's won here at Milano-Sanremo. You got Dylan Van Barle, Luke Rowe, Ethan Hayter. It is stacked top to bottom. Filippo Ganna, the world time trial champions here, and he's on form, but I still can't put him in the top 5. That team has not been able to beat the 2 Slovenians at anything other than 2 time trials, one at the UAE Tour from Filippo Ganna, and then of course he won just about a week ago at Trino Adriatico at the first stage 1 time trial against Tadej Pogacar. So everybody on that team's flying, but they just have not been able to beat the 2 Slovenians throughout the 2 seasons. So I'm leaving them out of my top 5 pick for teams, and I'm leaving them out of my favorites to win Milan-Sanremo. Up front, Wout van Aert, JumboVisma, Tadej Pogacar, UAE Team Emirates. Matthew van der Poel looks solid, even though we haven't seen him. How can you not put him solid with a resume like his? He's not going to come here to a big monument race without anything less than something spectacular to show. And of course, Peter Sagan, Total Energies, and Mads Pedersen, the ex-road world champion. He is on form. All 5 of those teams have riders I believe that can win tomorrow's Milano-Sanremo. It's going to be an exciting race. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys tomorrow on the Butterfly Effect.